Well, you're welcome to that, that's for sure.
So today I was hoping you could tell us some stories about when you became an Oma and your different grandkids. So maybe start off with telling us the story about the first grandkid, the first time you heard about Kathy being born. And all
grandchild was born, that was Kathy. And she was born on December the 2nd in 84. And that was on a Saturday. And I was in Sarnia with Uncle Tony, visiting there. And then Michael called there in the evening that he was at the hospital with Rose, that she was in labor. And so I went, I said, oh, I'll be coming home right away. So I went home right away. And I went straight to the hospital, and I stayed in the hospital in the waiting area. And he says, well, it can last, God knows. I said, I don't care how long it lasts. I said, just let me know when it's over and done with. I just want to see the baby after it's over. And he says, okay, it's up to you, but if you want to go home, I said, no, I'm staying here. And I did. And it was, I think, around midnight, or just past midnight or something, that she was born. And yeah, it was a nice brown-eyed baby, and yeah, had lots of hair. And, yeah, it was a good-looking baby. And the first one, so that was really something. And yeah, then Tante Rose was in the hospital for a couple of days, and then after that, she got home. And they were living in an apartment building. And Mom was on holidays, I think in Australia, New Zealand, or somewhere around there. But she had let me know that she was expecting you, that she was pregnant too, so I was looking forward to that too, of course. And so we waited with the christening of Kathy till Mom and Dad were home, because Dad was going to be the godfather. So we waited till they got home, and then after church, they all came to my apartment, because Tante Rose, that was too much in an apartment and have all them people over, because her side of the family was there too. So we went out to my place and we had coffee and cake and stuff like that. And then her family went home, and ours stayed for a while longer. And yeah, so that was very interesting. It was very nice.
So tell me again about how they told you they were pregnant in the supermarket. How did that
Oh, yeah, I was doing shopping at A&P, on Cheapside there. And all at once, here they come, the two of them. And I didn't realize I had a doctor's appointment that day. And so they come in, and oh boy, they were in a real good mood. And I said, oh, what are you doing here? Oh, well, we got good news for you, Oma. Tante Rose says. I said, oh. And Mike said, yeah, really good news. You never can guess. I said, no, what is it? And well, then they told me. Oh, my God. Of course, I burst out in tears. Couldn't they have waited till I was in the car or something? Jesus Murphy, right in the middle of the store, had to. But yeah, I was happy. That was the main thing. I was very happy. Yeah, and then after that, then you were number 2 coming along. And you were in July in 85. 85. And Mom was in the hospital with you for a while before you were born. I think she was in the hospital for about a month or so. And they were building on the house. They had bought a house and they were remodeling the house. So, and I think that wasn't very good for her to be home anyways. And then they were living in the apartment on, what's that street? Talbot Street. And it was a nice apartment, a big apartment. And yeah, you were born when you were there, when you were in Talbot. And then they moved before Christmas, I think it was, that they moved to the house. And yeah, and then after, who was born after that? Justin. Kathy was 2 years old on the 2nd of December, and Justin was born on December the 8th, on Opa's birthday. And I think that's why he's always a little special to Opa's. I think Opa really likes him. Oh, then came Alex from Uncle Tony, and they were living in Sarnia. So then Alex was born in August the 12th, in 87, on the 12th of August. And then...
So what do you remember about Alex being born? Were you...
well, they called me that and Karen, but her parents were there too, and I was still working then, and so I said, well, I'm coming to see. Of course, I wanted to go and see him, but yeah, she was in the hospital for a day or two, I think. Well, not very long, because her mom and dad were staying there, so they were helping out. Yeah, and there was no other kids yet. He was the first one. So then I went to see them, and he was a nice, good-looking baby too. And Justin was the only one that has red hair. Oh God, his whole head, it was red. And I think that comes from Opa's grandmother, from the Vossen side. Not Oma Vossen's mother, but Opa Vossen's mother. She had red hair. So and Justin is the only one from all of the kids. And then Alex didn't get baptized, that's right, not till later on, because Uncle Tony and Aunt Karen, when they got married, they were living together already, and so the father in the church wouldn't marry them in the Catholic Church. That's why they weren't married in the Catholic Church. And so then Aunt Karen didn't want Alex to be baptized either. Alex was in August, and Harry came in February. That's right. And I was living at Dutch and Spencer's then, by that time. And Dad called me in the morning, and at 7 o'clock in the morning I went to the hospital. And I waited there till Harry was born.
What do you remember about Harry being born? Do you remember what he looked like?
Oh yeah, he was a cute baby. Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was nice. And yeah, what is there to remember? I mean, well, they're all little, and you hold them, and yeah, and you're happy with them and stuff like that. And then after him, 2 years later, Harry was in February, and then 2 years later in September the 10th, Jared came along. So then, when Jared came along, they went, yeah, Harry was 2 years old, 2.5. Then Aunt Karen wanted the boys to get baptized. So they had a quick, after Mass, they had a quick wedding for them. Like they just, I was there and Uncle Tony and Karen and her mom and dad and her sister. And the priest did just before he baptized the two kids. So he gave them the blessing. And now I thought by myself, that was a lot of BS, but to be honest with you, yeah, come on, they were married for 4 years. Give me a break. So then Jared was going to be baptized and Alex both. So I took you and Harry with me. Mom and Dad were somewhere else. I forget where. And I still have pictures from that we went to that wedding, because Lourdes was at your house then. And we had pictures taken out. I don't know who took the picture, but somebody did. And in the front of the house, just when we were ready to go in the car. And I think I put them pictures in that you have now too. So then we went to Sarnia to the christening. And that's when all that baloney happened there. But at least the kids were baptized and she was happy that it was over and done with. And it made her, I think it made her parents very happy. I wasn't too impressed because I felt that was by the church not right. They shouldn't have done that the first time to say that they wouldn't marry him because they were living together. That was a lot of BS. But how many did not tell them that they were living together, and they were, and got married, and they get away with it? So that is not right. But yeah, what can you do? So that was that. So and then yeah, everybody started living a normal life, and there were birthdays that they all came together at your place and at Tante Rose's place. And we went to Alex's and Jared's birthday if there was when there was a birthday. So yeah, and then the whole family was together. So no, that was really interesting and good.
And tell me about the Easter egg hunts that we had together.
Oh, that was at your house all the time. And then there was you and Harry and Kathy and Justin and Ivy and Max and the two from Paula's, I forget their names, and David Luke. So there was 9 of them. And then we, the night before, Mom and Dad and I, we painted, boiled the eggs and colored them. And then Dad put the nests out, and then early in the morning, Dad went out, or Mom, I don't know who it was that did that, because in them days I was still going to church Sunday morning, and then after church I come, and then everybody else came, and Spencer and Dutch always came too. And then the eggs were all distributed. They were hiding in the bushes and in the garden and there. And then you kids, yeah, you were all little, so you kids had to go and look for them. And so Mom, Harry was kind of young still, so she had to drag Harry along and find, because yeah, you guys was, Kathy was fast, boy, was she ever. She always had the most ones. But yeah, she was one of the oldest ones, and Kathy and Ivy, I think, were about the same age, and then you were a little younger. So, then Mom dragged Harry along, and she put the eggs in the basket. Oh yeah, that was pretty good. And then the cats would be sitting on the window in the kitchen, looking out what you guys were doing. Because that was always quite cool. That was usually in March, sometime April, early April, but most of the time in March when it was Easter. So it was kind of, you had jackets on and stuff like that. And then we had, then after the Easter egg hunt was over, then we go inside and we all had breakfast inside the house. Yeah, that was good. And I think Grandpa and Grandma, like Dido and Grandma, I think would come around noon hour usually. But usually we were pretty well finished with the breakfast before they got there. Because yeah, you can't leave the kids that long that they couldn't go and get the eggs to wait till they finally came. So well, that was fun. That really was good. I enjoyed that. Yeah. I mean, they are nice memories to think back. It is very nice. So that was it.
And you were saying that when you were growing up, did you have egg hunts too?
Oh yeah, at home. Oh yeah, we always did. See, they had to do it really early in the morning because we all went to church, and then we go to early mass because us kids, well, we were in school already, but we knew that the Easter Bunny had been. That was called the Easter Bunny, and so. Well, we go to church early, to the earlier Mass, 7:30 Mass, so then 8:30 you were home, and that was kind of late already to go for the Easter egg hunt. See, and then my mother took us to church, and then my father would put the eggs in, and he had them all in the gooseberry bushes, and under the trees there was grass growing, and put stuff. So, and all around the yard, boy, you had to, well, he had quite an imagination to put down the nests, like, and my grandmother, they had chickens, and so she would save up the eggs because otherwise they couldn't afford to buy the eggs because that was not cheap. Maar then she would say, God knows how old the damn eggs were. I bet you they were a couple of weeks old. Yeah, and there was no fridge. They always sat on the counter in the kitchen, in a bowl, great big, and there was a big bowl that she always piled the eggs in. But when we go there, we always, she always made us eggs for lunch, like scrambled eggs or just fried eggs or hard-boiled eggs. Yeah, that was fun too. We enjoyed that. And I know my mom and dad, they enjoyed that too for us. Look, yeah, and we were not the only ones because next door they had 8 kids and they were running around their yard too. Like everybody's kids were doing that. That was an old system, and I kept that up over here. Because not everybody here did that. There was more because we came from there. And I don't think at Grandma and Dido's that they had that. So that's the reason why they only came later on, I think. They weren't used to that, but we were, and I kept that up, so. Yeah. And I think all you kids liked it. I'm pretty sure you all liked, because when you see the pictures, there was always lots of pictures taken. Joe took, from Paula, he took a lot of pictures. And yeah, they were all good pictures, and everybody looked happy and pushes each other so that they could, if they saw both at the same time, the one pushes the other. Oh, Kathy was good at that.
Tell me the story of how you came to be called Oma and what that name has been.
Well, Oma in Holland, grandmother is called Oma. And then when the kids, when the little ones, grandma, that is a long name for them to say, and Oma is so easy. Oma, Oma, Oma. They say, like you can hear Diane Jacob now too. Oma, Oma. And that's easy for them to say. So I said I wanted to be called Oma. And my Opa didn't want to be called Opa, he wanted to be called Grandpa. But yeah, that's different because, well, that's Canadian. So, and he wanted to be Canadian. He never wanted me to talk Dutch, like with the kids, to teach the kids Dutch. He didn't want that because he says they are in Canada, we are in Canada, and we have to. Well, and we visited a lot of Dutch people in Strathroy and stuff like that. And when we were there, we talked Dutch most of the time. And then he talked Dutch to them. And then as soon as we're in the car, well, it's all English again. I'm not supposed to. Oh, shit. It's always something, isn't it? So, maar, no, that was pretty good.
And how did it feel when you became an Oma? How did you feel?
Oh, I was happy. I was happy. Because when you have your own kids, you are so busy. And especially mine came, the 3 first ones were so quick. Wilma was born in July the 18th. The year after, John is born July 21st, so she was only a year and a couple of days old. When I was in the hospital, they taught her to walk. She wasn't walking on her own, she was walking alongside things, but not walking on her own. But when I came back from the hospital, because I was a week in the hospital, and Tante Jos was, you remember Tante Jos? Yeah, and she was looking after Wilma and the house, and her sister-in-law, Jo, the 2 of them. And so they were there. And Uncle Jerry, he taught Mom to walk. And then the year after that, John was 2 in July, no, Wilma was 2 in July, John was 1 in July, and then September the 9th, onze Toon comes along. So I had not much time to spend with my kids. Bingo, you go in the playpen in the morning and you sit there and stay in the playpen and the toys were thrown in there and then I could do my work because yeah, I had to look after the others too. When I had onze Toon, like in the morning after 9 o'clock, that's when onze Toon's time was. Then the 2 have had breakfast and Dad had gone to work and I have had my breakfast. So then it was the time that I had to look after Tony, to give him a bath and feed him. And he was bottle fed, like I never breastfed Tony. But then Wilma was sitting on the little party and onze Jean was sitting in the playpen and onze Toon was, yeah, I was giving him a bath at the table in the dining room and feeding him the bottle. Yeah, how much time did I have to spend with little? So when the grandchildren came along, well, I could spend all my time with them when I was there. And the nice part was, if they got cranky and miserable, you could send them back where they came from. where you have your own, it's a different story. You live different then, that's for sure. So, no, but it was fun. I have enjoyed my grandchildren, and I still enjoy them. And now the great-grandchildren. Yeah, it's too bad that you're so far away. Because, well, I can't see it too often. Well, like Jacob, I see him a lot. And you see all the little things that you have missed with your own kids. But now, you still, and that was the same as the grandchildren. I know sure that my kids had done things like that, what I saw new on you guys, that was, well, you didn't even notice because you were too busy. You had too much to do. And you were tired, and you just dumped them in the playpen. That was it.
Tell us the story of how you met Dutch and Spencer and came to live with them during that time.
Well, I was in the apartment building and I worked there as for weekend, every other weekend and on holidays. And then I had a run-in with the superintendent because Tony was on holidays when they went on holidays, and Tom was staying with me. And the super was, the man was a drinker, and he didn't work too hard. And the woman had to do most of the work, but she couldn't do all of it. There was 8 floors, there was a lot of apartments. And there was 3 stairways, one in the middle and one on that end and one on that end. And every stairway had on the landing a window. Them windows were never taken out and cleaned. So I said to Stone, when they are gone, would you help me? Because he didn't have any money to go anywhere on holidays, and he was trying to save money. That's why I was keeping him. He didn't have to pay room and board. I said, I'll pay you for it. I said, and Tony was drinking quite a bit, and I wanted to take him off the drinks. I said, but this time he couldn't buy beer when he was staying with me. I said, but this time I'll buy you a case of beer. Oh sure, he says. Yeah, he had nothing else to do. So we worked and worked. We did everything. There was 2 laundry rooms, one on the 5th floor, one on the 2nd floor. He took all the washers out, cleaned all behind them. He took all the windows out in the laundry rooms, on the stairwells. We washed all the stairwells, the garbage chutes, washed all the walls. They were filthy. People had washed all the walls and the ceilings and waxed the floors. After 10 o'clock at night, they were not allowed in the garbage chute. So I did that after hours. The halls were all vacuumed, and the door, that little stoop on the door, that was supposed to be black, but it was as gray as molasses. So I washed it, and then I took a cloth with, what do you call that? That polish that you polish the woodwork with. And I went over it, and it turned black, and so nice. And the people were so surprised. And we washed the windows in the lobby downstairs. I don't think they were ever washed. And I washed the curtains from them windows 6 times. And I said, then the supervisor from the company came in. What are you doing, Ria? What's different here? I said, curtains. I said, but now they're in for the 6th time. I said, Bill, come and see. I said, I don't know what I am gonna do. And I said, now look at that water. He says, yeah, that's still dirty. I said, yeah, he says, you know what? The curtains look a lot better than they did. I said, well, I hope so after 6 washings. And he says, hang them up. And just let your son hang them when they're still wet, and they'll dry by itself. And Tony had washed the windows in and outside in the lobby. And it was true. They turned out white. Oh, there was a big difference. Oh my God. And we scrubbed the whole floors and everything there. So the super was not very happy when they came back, because that didn't look good on him, because Bill had been coming and on zijn toon, he cleaned. There was a room that they have everything stored in. But Claire, you couldn't walk in that room. You had to push everything aside to get to something. But there was shelving and everything. So Toon said, if I clean this up. So when Bill came, I said, is it allowed that he does that? And Bill says, how in the hell does John get here? So I said, I don't know. I said, he's corked most of the time, so. And he says, well, sure, if your son wants to do that. I said, yes. So then Tony cleaned it up. Now, Claire, there was nothing, just underneath on the floors, underneath the shelving. But otherwise, that was all clean, and you could walk and you could get everything. You could get a hold of. Oh, they were happy, but then when they came back, they were not happy. So, well, I made them look bad, which was true. But I was so pissed off. So, anyways, then I wanted to move because I didn't feel happy anymore. So when I was at Dutch and Spencer's, and people that were living in that apartment where I lived in, they had moved out. There was a guy living there, and he had moved out. So when I came there, Grace and Charlie were there from Ottawa visiting. And Dutch says, would you mind to clean that apartment? Because we're going to rent it out again. And instead of, because I cleaned their house, their apartment. I said, sure, I don't care what I do. And so I did. So then Grace came down with a cup of coffee, and I said, do you know how much they are charging for it? And she says, no, I don't really know, but I can ask. Why? I said, I wouldn't mind having this apartment. I want to get out where I am. I said, and Will is living so close here. I could be in walking distance. And yeah, so she said, and it was just before you were born. And she says, I'll talk to Spencer, she says, and see what he says. So she had talked to Spencer, and then Spencer called me and he said, I hear that you wanted the apartment. And Grace and Charlie both had told him, you're a lot better off to have Ria living there than that you get students or something. So they agreed, and I got the apartment. So that's when I moved in June, I think. Yeah, just before you were born. I moved in there. So I lived there from, when were you born? 85, eh? So I lived there from 85 to 96. No, to 94. Yeah, 94, because Dutch got sick. And then they sold the house. Dutch went in an apartment, and then Spencer went to Florida to I forget what the name of that town is, to the university. He went there, and he sold his dental practice, and he went for doing massages and stuff like that.
So what was it like to live there when you lived with Dutch and Spencer, and just maybe talk a little bit about your relationship with them?
Oh, that was good. That was good living there. They would go quite often on holidays and stuff like that. And then I had the run of the whole house, look after the whole house, and they usually would go for 2 weeks, sometimes 4 weeks. And I would clean the whole house from top to bottom, and every room in the house and everything. The closets, I would have the clothes all hanging straight in the closets, and the dressers, everything was perfect. Oh, they loved it when they come back. Oh yeah, I always got extra money when they came back, and they always brought me presents when they came back from the holidays, because they knew Ria would have. And they were like sons to me, because they were always so good to me. They were. I mean, sure, they were gay, but what the hell do I care if they're gay or not? As long as they leave me alone, I don't care. So, no, I lived a good life there. And then I was in walking distance. I could walk to your place. And you stayed over quite often overnight before you started school. And Harry did too. And then, I could pull my couch out and have you sleeping on the couch in the front if you wanted to. Maria, you wanted to sleep with Oma in the bed. But then if Harry was there, then you would sleep on the couch, and then Harry, because then you could turn the TV on. I didn't realize that, but you would turn the TV on, you little devil. And Harry was sleeping with me. Yeah, I don't know what you were watching in the middle of the night, but in the morning, TV was on. When I woke, Maggie, you were smart enough not to do it too loud, that it bothered us. Kathy and Justin were over an awful lot at your house. Uncle Mike, like he had the afternoon shift lots of time, and then he would come in the morning. If he had to go uptown and do something, but then he had to go to the bathroom, he wouldn't go to a public bathroom. He would come and have a dump at your house and have the kids with him. And so then, you kids played, and you had all kinds of toys and all kinds of movies to watch. Katja just liked watching the movies at your house too, because you had all these nice movies for kids, like. So well, that was lots of fun. Yeah, and I was around a lot. I still work, but after work I came over and I was around a lot. And when Mom and Dad went on holidays, I always stayed with you kids. And one time I stayed at your house when Mom and Dad were gone, and you were sleeping with me in Mom's bed, and Angel from Uncle John, she came over to stay overnight too, and she slept in your room, in your bed, and Harry slept in his own bed. And Angel and you guys were in bed, and then Angel and I were watching TV in the basement. We were watching a movie there, and then we saw somebody walking by the window. You had that window there in the corner, and then the doorbell rang. So I went upstairs, and there was the city police. Ma'am, did you call? Did you have somebody here? Did you call? Because the alarm went off. I said, no. I said, the alarm didn't. And then Angel came up. I said, the alarm didn't go off, Angel. She says, no. Yes, the police says, because it won't go off here, but they hear it wherever that is. And then you were standing on top of the stairs, and I looked up at you, and beside Mom's bed was a button, an emergency button you could push. And I looked at you, I said, Claire, tell Oma, did you push the button by Mom's bed? You stand like that. I said, you did, didn't you? I said, it's all right, just tell Oma. You went like that. And that's how the police came in, and he says, you mind if we look? We want to check. I said, sure, go ahead. And so they went and checked the whole house. Oh, and they were impressed with the house when they came down. Oh my gosh. They were talking to each other. Oh my gosh, this ever. Yeah, they had all the nice furniture and everything, and it was an older looking house. Oh yeah, they were impressed. But you didn't do that anymore. There was only once that you did that. Hatter. And then we went on you guys went on holidays to Florida a lot. And then one year I went with you. And that was fun too, to go with. That was before Christmas that we went. And I have pictures. You will see them pictures.
What year was this?
I think that was 93 or something. Harry was little, and well, Harry was born what, in 88? So maybe 92, the Christmas of 9. He was about 4 years old, I think. and we were going to Wikiwachi to see the what do you call that, the mermaids, and then we stopped at Bob Evans for breakfast, and we were all sitting there, and they have these guys come up to greet you, hey, from Disney World with these outfits on. And there was one, and Harry was like this. Oh no, he didn't like that. And he was, and he didn't want to shake hands. You did. You were not so shy, but he didn't. He was scared. Yeah, well, they look kind of scary when you're a little kid, and they have all these outfits on. But and then we went to Wikiwachi. We had the pictures taken with the mermaids, and yeah, that was nice too. Yeah, we had a nice holiday there. And then we came home before Christmas again. Christmas time we were home. And Christmas time Mom had always nicely decorated the stairway with all the stockings hanging there. And then Grandpa and Dido would come from Toronto on Christmas Eve. And then in the morning, you guys woke up early. That's funny, eh? When something like that goes on, otherwise you sleep in, but then you're up so early. It's funny. That I don't know why that is, but well, we were like that too when we were kids. That's true. Well, it was like we had it in the old country that it was Santa Claus, eh? And it was on December the 6th. But in the mornings, oh my God, before we went to school, oh yeah, you had to get your stuff. That's true. Unwrap everything. Yeah, it was fun, really. I traveled a lot by myself. One time I traveled to Prince Edward Island. Went to Quebec, and we went to Quebec. And now I went with 3 women from Strathroy. And Mr. Strijbers, you know the Strijbers, and Mr. Strijbers was going to Holland. And his wife was going with me. And he says, well, and I had a small car. So he says, well, since you go, Fien, he said to his wife, he says, you can take our car as long as Ria drives. Don't you drive? He said, yeah, Fien was used to driving in Strathroy, but not farther than that. And so were the other 2 women. And he says, so Maria has to drive. And yeah, Ria was going to drive. I said, oh yeah, that's fine with me. And so we drove, and we stayed somewhere overnight, close to the Quebec border. And then in the morning, that other woman, she was a cousin of Mr. Strijbers. And she said to Fien, that is not fair that Ria has to drive all the time, because there is too much on her. And I had the trip all ticked out from the CAA and stuff like that. I knew exactly where I was going, what I was doing. And I thought, oh God, here it comes. And then, yeah, Fien didn't dare say, you can't drive to her. And she says, well, Ria, is it okay if I let her drive? I said, well, you know what Harry said. And she says, well, and then she butt in, that woman, and so I said, okay, so I'll go in the back. So I went in the back seat, and I sat like this. I could exactly see what she was doing, and I see the signs on the road. But they thought I was asleep, because I said I was going to sleep. And I wouldn't dare sleep in the car when she was driving. And so then I saw the signs, and I thought, oh my God, we are the wrong way. And that was in Montreal. And all at once I hear her say, oh, we are the wrong way. I don't know where we are. I can't. So then Fien turns around from the front seat, and Ria, wake up. Mintje doesn't know where she is, where we are. I said, well, it is right there where it says from the CAA where you have to go. Yeah, but she can't figure it out and she doesn't know where she... I said, there is a gas station coming up there. Stop at the gas station. I'll go and ask. She says, well, they don't speak English, that woman says. I said, stop at that gas station. And Fien says, yeah, stop there. To me, so she stopped there. And then she says, I said, you all stay in the car, I'll go in. And give me the card. And so I got the thing, and I went in. They speak English, even if it was Quebec, they spoke English. Yeah, I didn't know if they would or not, but I took the chance. And then the guy said, so I told him that somebody else was driving, that we were that she took the wrong turn. And I said, we were planning on going to Quebec City. And he says, lady, you see that hedge there? I said, yeah. He says, well, you drive as far as that hedge and then you turn right. And that is the old highway into Quebec City. You can't get there as fast as the big highway. But then it is easier driving, he says. I said, thank you very, very much. I thought, who you? So I went in the car. Did they speak English? I said, they spoke English. I said, but don't bug me. Nobody bugs me because they gave me instructions. So let me think so that I know what I'm doing. But I knew what I was doing. So I drove straight to Quebec City. And then we went to St. Anne, Sting and stuff like that. From there on we went to Prince Edward Island. But that was with the ferry in them days. The bridge wasn't there yet. So we were on the ferry, and then coming back we went over Nova Scotia and we took the Cabot Trail. Jesus, then after that we went to Maine, and in Maine we were going to go over the border and then coming back over the US to the Niagara Falls. But yeah, that was in the back roads, eh? So, but yeah, you can get across the border there too, somewhere. I knew that you would be able to. But yeah, they were all yakking and talking, and I wasn't paying attention to the signs. And all at once, well, I could see two or three guys were standing there in blue overalls or blue uniforms. I forget what they had on. And well, looks like if they were mechanics from the garage, eh? And the big garage doors open, and so I didn't pay any attention. My Jesus, I go through and the sirens began to go. Oh yeah, she went over the border. Oh my God. So I stop and they come running and they had the guns in their hand. Oh Jesus. And so I backing up and we all had to get out of the car. And I said to the guy, yeah, I insulted him too, because I said to him, I said, I'm sorry, sir, I didn't realize, I thought it was a gas station. Jeez. We had to all get out. They took everything out of the trunk of the car, out of the back seat of the car. They checked everything, and then they left it there, and yeah, we could go, but we had to put it all back in. Damn fools. So that was there. That was my trip to. I paid attention from there on to go over the falls, over the bridge and stuff like that. From there on, I paid attention. I wouldn't listen to them anymore. Jeez. But we had fun. Everybody enjoyed. And there was something to talk about when we got home. At the time, it wasn't funny, but well, God knows they could have kept you there. Or, well, yeah, we didn't do anything. It was by accident. I mean, you didn't do it on purpose. So, Jesus.
And what year was that?
Oh, I forget. What would that have been? I was still on by Dutch and Spencer. So late 80s or maybe early 90, 91 or so. I went to Florida quite often. And one year I went with Angie's mom, took Angie's mom. One year I took Fien Strijvers. But this year I flew to Fort Myers by plane, and then I rented a car because I wanted to go to Key West. I've been in Florida a lot of time, but never to Key West, so I wanted to go to Key West. I go to Key West, and I got there. Well, it was too early for supper. It was about 4:30. It was too early for supper. And there was a motel there. And then there was a Waffle House. And then there was a bar. I thought, you know what? Instead of going to have something to eat there, I'll go and have a drink, a glass of wine in the bar. So I went in the bar, and yeah, it was over there it's summer. In the winter the weather was good, and the door was standing open, and I walk in, and there was a woman, a waitress coming to me. I went to sit by that table there. She says, "I'm sorry, but I think you're in the wrong place." I said, "No, I don't think so." I said, "I came for a glass of wine." "Yeah, I know," she says, "but I think you're in the wrong place." And then she looked that way. And I followed her looks. I said, "Yeah, I think you're right, I am." And I couldn't get out of there fast. It was a gay bar, and I'm the only woman there. So I got out, and I went quick into the Waffle House, and I gulped down some coffee instead. Hot dog. Oh, I was so embarrassed for her, but yeah, well. It's too bad that you are by yourself. Then you should have somebody with you. Then you're not so embarrassed. And I should have known better because I knew that Key West was a lot of gays. So being used to it, I should have known. That was my experience. Had to.
Is there anything that you wanted to say to future generations? What you've learned, a message that you want to pass on to your great grandkids, your great grandkids, anything like that?
I don't know. Just be happy and be good. Don't do the wrong things. But yeah, that's easy for me to say. I mean, when they are growing, and especially in these days, I mean, years ago life was different than it is now. Actually, I feel sorry for my little ones coming along because the world seems to go so much wrong in so many ways. And you don't, Maya, I don't know. You don't know what's going to go on. And you don't know how much longer the world is going to be. They say the world is coming to an end. Well, I'm beginning to wonder. Sometime. Don't you? No. But, yeah, there is not much. Well.
No words of wisdom to pass on.
Well, I don't have much wisdom. I don't think. Oh, just you guys be good to your kids, and your kids will be good to you too. Like you will be to mom and dad, and mom and dad are good to you, so you be good to mom and dad when they're going to get old too. You don't know. So how long they are going to live. Because they both come from good stock. Because Grandma is old. Dido died a little sooner, but like the old Grandma was old, and Grandpa was old, like Grandma's father, he was old. I forget how old he was. I think he was in his 80s. And yeah, that is so many years ago already. That was old in them days. Now 82 is not as old as it was then, because it's more like 100. Jesus. Yeah.
So what kind of changes have you seen, in your lifetime? What would you say are the biggest changes?
Oh, that there is a lot more traffic. A lot. Oh, the cars now, or when we came here, like my husband was a mechanic and he came to the right country. And he always wanted to be living in the States. And when we moved to Sarnia from the Sioux, and on Sundays, almost every Sunday, the first 2 years we were there, we were in the States, traveling and looking and used car lots and stuff like that. But then he decided not to go to the States. Well, and I think he did the right thing. He made good in, well, he worked hard too, so you can't say that. He did work very hard and very long, so, but he made out okay. But if you came today, you couldn't do what we could at that time. I think we came just at the right time when we came. Like I said, I had a good life. These last 30 years, 35 years, they have been the best years of my life. Really. Because my kids were growing up and I enjoyed my grandchildren and now my great-grandchildren. What more can I wish for, right? It has been beautiful. And I had a good life in the old country too. I mean, life was different. It was, well, we used to call it the good olden days. Now I don't know if that was the good olden days. You worked like a slave, but yeah, you didn't know any better, and everybody was in the same boat. So it was fine, and you were young, so it didn't hurt you. So no, I had a good life, yeah. And I'm not sorry that I came to Canada. Not sorry at all. I think I did make the right move. I had a good time, yeah. I hope you guys, it works out for you guys as well, for all of my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren, that as it had for me. If you can be as happy as I have been, then I'm very pleased, because then I know that you've done the right thing.